Hey guys, welcome to the More Than a Car podcast, brought to you by Volkswagen. I'm Kurt McGuinness.
And I am apparently Heather Maltman.
So the idea of the podcast is we're going to be getting right down into the nitty-gritty of all things cars, not just Volkswagen, but the very pop culture-ness, I guess you could say, of cars. Design, building prototypes, all kinds of stuff.
We're going to get to all the things. I believe we're going to talk design, cool technology, culture, cities of the future. What about cars that have changed the world? How about robots? Can we talk about robots?
I think it would be remiss of us not to talk about robots.
I agree with you completely.
So in our first podcast, we are going to be talking about prototypes. What does it actually take to make a prototype in the auto industry? And what does it take to make a design that actually stick and outlast the test of time?
What can we call today's podcast?
How about My Toaster Has Wheels?
I like the sound of that. You make it sound very magical.
It kind of, I mean, look, I'm tearing up a little bit just thinking about the clay. It's not quite sort of Patrick Swayze and Ghost, but there's something really...
made out of other cars.
Frankenstein car.
Yeah, it's a Frankenstein car.
It's actually been repeatedly described as one of the ugliest concept cars ever.
That's so rough. Oh, wow, that just baked my noodle.
Today, we're going to be talking about prototyping,
yes.
Which is a huge part of the industry for the design of cars. And as you can imagine, the finished product that we see on our roads is not the product that was originally envisioned in a studio somewhere. It wasn't the product that was first displayed at a motor show, and it certainly wasn't the product that was first presented to a company's board of directors in a clay model.
Wow, can we find out why?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think about prototyping? I mean, how would you go about prototyping a car?
Well, okay, first of all, I would probably get someone who was super artistic to maybe come up with something that no one's ever seen before. But I'd also consider what have we sold before that worked really well, and then I'd just get someone who knew what an engine was and put something in it so that it drives.
You've kind of actually hit the nail on the head in terms of...
No, I haven't.
Seriously, hand on my heart, yeah. Because one of the things that Volkswagen does, which isn't, let's just say it's not something that every car manufacturer does, is that the design of our cars are evolutionary rather than revolutionary. So if you look at, say, a car like the Golf, which is one of our widest sort of sold cars around the world, and it comes in a range of different sort of body styles. We've had hatchbacks, we've had wagons, we've had cabriolets.
The Golf has come as a wagon?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
Like a shaggin' wagon?
Yeah, well,
The giant big butt?
Might be a little bit too difficult, but,
okay.
Cup holders and whatnot. But,
oh, wow.
Yeah, but but that design has actually evolved over time. So what we've started with is a Golf, and we're into our, in Australia, we've got a Golf 7.5, so it's a half step between the generations. But let's just say, for argument's sake, that we've got 7 generations of cars. If you actually lined those Golfs up, you could actually see a clear evolution of that design. And that is a very Volkswagen sort of approach to it. The advantage of doing something like that is that the designs continue to be timeless. So when you go back to the drawing board too many times, you have a model range that kind of all sort of sticks out and, I guess doesn't sort of flow in terms of next generation. It also makes things a lot harder when you want to start integrating unique features and things like that into the body of the design. So that's the big secret. And that's actually something that we cover off a little bit later. So I had a chat with the head of Volkswagen Design, a guy by the name of Klaus Bischoff. Klaus sits at the very, very top of the tree of the design family, I guess.
Does he? He's the big cheese.
He is the biggest cheese. So he is all about the design. And, that's kind of his thing. So he really is sort of part of the prototyping process, which is a really, really long and in-depth and, sort of, I guess, all-encompassing process to go through before a car actually ends up in the hands of a customer. I mean, look, I think, it's pretty obvious to everyone I'm a bit of a car nerd. I apologise for that. No. But he's a car nerd as well. He's probably the biggest car nerd. So his understanding of the inner machinations of the business was just something that I hadn't even sort of understood myself before. But he has been involved in some of the really, really big sort of projects that are coming, including a few sort of upcoming models that we'll be sort of discussing later.
Really?
So, yeah, a few sort of electric vehicles, for example, and probably the one that I'm most excited about, the return of the combi van. Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah, I know.
You are appealing to my inner hippie.
Yeah,
I just
me
want to
too.
grow out my armpit hair.
Yeah. Not shower.
Yes.
Yeah.
Eat beans out of a can. They
Yeah.
eat beans out of a can.
Yeah, play the bongo drums, ukulele.
Ooh.
So anyway, look, the creative process for designing a prototype of a car is, it's not just lines and forms and colours and things like that. You've also got to sort of think about aerodynamics, functionality, general appearance, and probably the one that we all get a little bit excited about, speed. But, look, when we're prototyping for a new vehicle and, we've got that sort of process in full swing, there can be thousands of engineers at any given time working on these separate elements to get a finished product, because a car is divided into different sort of sections. So you've got exterior designers, you've got body shop guys, you've got chassis designers, you've got interior designers, you've even got people that look at sort of colours and paint and things like that as well. And then you've got all the designers for things like accessories, like wheels and different spoiler designs and all these kind of things. So when we talk to a guy like Klaus Bischoff, this is somebody who sits there and says, right, we're going to design a new Golf and we're going to go out to all of our development teams, and Volkswagen has them all over the world. And all of those teams actually come in and they basically all sort of present their ideas for the new Golf interior, the new Golf exterior, the new headlight designs, the new weight-saving technologies and things like that. And then he sort of goes, okay, you guys, and you guys, go. And it goes through several different stages of iterations. We have, so there is a process called CAD, C-A-D, which basically just means design using computer-generated imagery. And the benefit of that is that it is a computer software that designers can use that can design a car using the computer. They have it all up on the screen.
Is that like when they got the car in clay and then they get the lasers? Wow, I sound like a crazy person. And the lasers pick up the mold of the car that's just been presented or something?
Sort of.
Is it that?
So basically it's before we even get to a clay model. It is basically there to design a look of a car and they can test a number of different parameters using algorithms and things like that within the program to say, yes, that car is acceptable to move to the next stage, or, aerodynamically, this car is going to have issues here on the windshield or something like that. So
it's more like that part where just before a fashion show gets underway, the designers get together and they work out what fabric is going to best go for a certain gown or something like that. Because if they wear the wrong fabric, it's not going to hang right, and then your model's inadvertently going to look like she's had 10 pies. I am so with you right now.
Pretty much. I mean, I wouldn't have chosen that analogy, but I'm totally with you there. But it's effectively, it's a bit of digital nip tucking. That's what it comes down to.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Anyways, so let's have a listen to some of my chat with Klaus Bischoff, head of Volkswagen Design. Okay, Klaus, let's just jump straight into it. Talking about the prototyping process, how does a design get from paper to the factory floor?
If you talk about show cars, this is a very condensed and intensive process. It's a pitch with all designers worldwide to get the best out of the team. We let them do a very tough competition for a short period of time. Yeah, so you have, let's say, 4 weeks sketch program. Then we look at the results, and I give direction. Yeah, which way to follow. Of course, I have a clear vision where I want to go. So the team is proposing, and together we decide which direction we take. And in 2 months' time, you will have some presentations. You have a sketch or a vision where to go.
So there you go. So that's Klaus Bischoff basically sort of in a very humble way saying, I am charged with the task of deciding which way that our cars go. And he's very good at what he does. I mean, the cars that he has worked on continue to sort of pick up awards for design and things like that. But I think ultimately the real sort of test of good design is that they continue to find homes, they continue to attract a legion of fans, and people are finding uses for them in their everyday. Nobody ever sort of buys a car with a singular purpose in mind unless, you're buying something like a race car or something like that. Typically, when we buy something, we look at how is it going to fit into my lifestyle? What does it say about me? What kind of economical sort of things are going to come into play in terms of fuel efficiency? Can I park it on the street? All those sort of things. So there are a multitude of customer sort of parameters that you have to think about when you're designing these cars. And this guy, Klaus, has sort of said, well, we have a team of designers and we work with them and we basically say these are the things that we want to do. And he runs the show. Even sort of talking about things like vehicle stylists. So one of the things that used to sort of happen historically in sort of 1930s and so on were that you would have vehicle stylists and then you would have coach builders as well. So these are two very separate sort of operations where.
What's a coach builder?
So a coach builder is basically somebody who would fit the car. So even before, I mean, we're sort of almost talking about this transition between horse and cart and then fully sort of motorized vehicles.
Right.
But coach builders are exactly what it sounds like. They build coaches. So the interior of cars have got, different seating and things like that, different panel works.
Yeah.
If you think about an old car, they had a lot of flat panels and things like that. A coach builder would be somebody who would actually build the car.
Right. So they put everything into it.
Pretty much, yeah.
So okay, I think I'm getting you now. So the stylist is the guy that comes in and he's like, I'm going to make it look pretty and make it really functional.
Yep.
And then the coach builder is the guy that's like, cool, so this is what you want, I'm going to make that happen. He's like the chef.
Yep.
He's the chef.
Exactly. So your stylist is your architect and your coach builder is your builder.
Yeah, right. So you really don't want to get a crappy coach builder, do you?
No, absolutely not. Because, effectively what could happen is you could have the best designed car in the world and it could look amazing. But
then it just falls apart.
Exactly.
See, I had a Micra for a while and my Micra was boss, but for some reason it didn't matter what I did, the glove box, that guy. So it had one on the top that lifted towards the windshield and then had another one that opened towards your knees. It was very weird. It opened in the middle and it didn't matter what you did with this thing. It always broke. Like the back hinge piece would always break.
Well, see, that's something that somebody would actually look at in terms of and maybe they got it wrong, but in terms of industrial design and things like that, so one of the great examples is, and I know that Volkswagen has similar people that do these sort of things, but many, many years ago, Lexus, so the luxury car division of Toyota,
are they the luxury?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So like they're the Coles and Toyota is the Aldi.
Yeah, sort of.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay,
so they actually quite famously said, we have engineers who press buttons on cars and close doors to make sure that the sound is right.
No, they don't.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing to think about. Let's get back onto prototyping.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So once we've kind of got our design, our sketches, we've done some initial testing with computers and things like that to basically sort of work out our form and how it's going to look, we could move into clay modelling. Now, this is something that I really sort of take heart for, because ultimately this is still a very sort of time-honoured process, building something out of clay. And I think that that's one of the most fantastic things about car prototyping is that despite the fact that we're getting more sort of over the top with technology and things becoming more advanced and we're getting cleverer and things like that, ultimately, if you want to see a car before it gets built and work out all the lines and things like that, the best way to do it is to build the thing in clay.
Yeah, true.
So clay models, you can have them in different sizes. Obviously, when a car is ready to go to that sort of final prototyping stage, you will get a full-size clay model, which is...
You make it sound very magical.
It kind of, I mean, look, I'm tearing up a little bit just thinking about the clay. It's not quite sort of Patrick Swayze in Ghost, but there's something really...
But seriously, I feel like in 50, 60 to 100, 200 years' time, they're going to look back on how we used to put cars together and they're going to see these little clay cars and whatever the new technology is that's moved forward. They're going to be like our cave paintings.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's going to be the thing. I mean, do you think it's going to go to something like 3D printing?
The thing is, though, with the clay, I feel like that would kind of be more efficient, I hope that's the right word here, in starting the design of the car, because with the 3D printing, you'd have to wait every time for the new thing to print out. Whereas with the clay, I'm guessing, could be wrong here, you get a giant block of clay and you just carve that thing down until you get what you want. And because it's clay, if you carve a bit wrong, I'm guessing you can just slap a bit back on again and shave it back down.
Pretty much. I mean, the bulk of the initial sort of mold, I guess, is done with machinery and computers because as you can imagine, I mean, how big, would a huge piece of clay be to sort of get that worked? But when you start working in things like lines and edges and things like that, it's all done by hand by the modelers that are in the studio. It really is a bit of an art form in itself.
Yeah.
So on top of talking with Klaus Bischoff, who is the head of Volkswagen Design, I also got to have a chat with Dr. Mark Richardson. So he is an industrial design specialist, but also has worked pretty extensively with Ford in Australia and has actually designed some of Ford's most iconic vehicles over the years, including working on the infamous AU Falcon and also the award-winning Territory. So let's see what he actually says about how the process goes down.
I'd actually say that the process starts before the sketch. There's the product planning team go out there and do the marketing exercises necessary to sort of gauge what's happening out in society, gauging the culture and trying to understand what people's needs are. And then they'll put together a proposal for a vehicle and a rough package of what that vehicle is. And then engineering will CAD up that package, and then quite often they'll make a functional mule or something, just a cut and shut, made out of other cars.
Frankenstein car.
Yeah, it's a Frankenstein car. And then you sit in that car and it's like, oh yeah, you get a sense of, what it is that you're trying to do, but there's obviously a big tension between stylistically where you want to, or what you want to achieve, and, the ergonomic parameters and the mechanical and the engineering parameters that are sort of driving the rational side of the vehicles. Yep.
Didn't you say that the AU Falcon is one of the most hated cars that's been designed and released?
It's not popular. It was quite a polarizing design. So mainly because of the headlights and the profile of the car, it was a real sort of break away from that bread and butter sort of Falcon design that we've seen and certainly that has developed. So,
and Mark was the one that...
Well, Mark,
was his brainchild.
To be fair to the good doctor, he did actually sort of come in towards the end of that process. But he did also, and all sins are redeemed, he did actually work on the Territory. And the Territory is probably one of Ford's most successful vehicles in Australia in recent years. So
you're always making a positive spin on everything, aren't you, mate? You're a good person.
Yeah. But cars have this amazing ability to kind of inspire passion and excitement and, prestige and status and all those kind of things. And car companies are great at tapping into that. But at the heart of these sort of things, and what really comes down to the design element of a prototype, is style. So let's talk a little bit about some of the who's who of stylissimos, I guess you could say, for car designers. And one of the guys who I wanted to sort of have a bit of a chat about is a guy called Luigi Colani. Luigi Colani, who, well, funnily enough, he's actually a German industrial designer of Kurdish and Polish descent.
Oh my!
But the most fantastic thing about Luigi Colani is that he has designed basically everything. We're talking toasters, we're talking sort of really really sort of basic goods that people would use every day. But he also designed a car. Now, this is one of the really interesting things about Mr. Kalani is that he, well, I guess, you could say that he is a bit of a futurist in terms of some of the cars that some of the designs that he's had.
What are we talking?
Well, I didn't want to sort of ruin the surprise too early, but he did actually sort of design something called the Kalani prototype, or the Volkswagen Kalani prototype.
After himself.
Well, yeah, it's probably not a good thing to put your name to something if it was, because it may not always go the way that you anticipated. Unfortunately, with the Volkswagen Kalani concept, it's actually been repeatedly described as one of the ugliest concept cars ever.
That's so rough.
Yeah. To make matters worse, poor Mr. Kalani actually designed the car to be a replacement for the Volkswagen Beetle.
Good.
So, and that's a hard act to follow. That's like sort of having Jerry Seinfeld warm the crowd up for you. This is. I'm just going to show you the picture, and guys, if anybody sort of listening on the podcast now, make sure you Google the Volkswagen Kalani prototype because it looks a little bit like
looks like a frog.
Yeah, it looks like a go-go mobile being force-fed a shower head. It's
well, don't hold back.
No, well, look, I mean, and this is actually, I mean, I have to be honest. This is a bit of a sore subject for me because Mr. Kalani is an extremely stylish guy. He exudes style, and if you don't believe me, Google him. But
is that him there?
Yeah, that's him. So he is a full-haired, mustachioed man with white sweater.
He actually looks like Mario from Mario Kart. Like he needs the hat.
I'm a little bit intimidated by how handsome this cat is. I mean, that is a good-looking man. Yeah. It's like Richard Gere with facial hair sort of.
Oh, I wouldn't worry too much. He's got one eye that sort of drifts off to the side.
Well, maybe that was the eye that he was using for the prototype because unfortunately this.
All right, Joan Rivers.
Yeah. But I mean, look, I'm just going to sort of read you some of the descriptions of the 1977 prototype. It's pretty clearly front-engined, since that amphibian mated with a showerhead face can only get to massive amounts of air into the front. And look at that shifter. It looks like some sort of alien robo-orchid. This looks like a space. Yeah. So these are, I could go on, but what we're actually sort of talking about here is, I guess you could say it's a failure. Let's move on to a car that I am extremely sort of excited about to talk about, simply because I think it's kind of, as I sort of mentioned before, it's probably the most iconic car of all time, the Beetle. So,
yes.
I mean, this is the car. So Volkswagen in German means the people's car. This was a car that was designed for people. It was a car that was utilitarian in design, but still stylish enough and of the time. And one of the amazing things about the Beetle is that it has basically gone everywhere. It has done everything, and it has withstood the test of time.
It's actually the car that my dad, bless his soul, when I first started learning how to drive, he told me that if I was going to get a car, I was only allowed to get that or a Volvo.
Wow.
Yeah.
Staunch supporter, your dad. What'd you go with?
I ended up getting a Beetle, and I was only able to drive it for a year or so, and then my sister ended up taking it, and I had to drive a Pulsar.
But that's one of the amazing things about Beetles is that they do get passed around.
They do. They're
from generation
so cool.
to generation. So yeah, I mean, look, that's one of the fascinating things about the Beetle, and certainly the Combi van as well. I mean, they're both sort of beacons of utilitarian design that have just been picked up by counterculture and run in totally different sort of and obscure places.
Okay, so you've teased me and the audience now from the very beginning something exciting about the Combi to come up.
Yep.
I want to know the things. When do I get to go full hippie again?
So, yes, Combi van is coming back. So I should preface this by saying the Combi van is actually, I guess, in a way diverging in two sort of spaces. So originally the Combi van was called a transporter. We still sell a transporter now. We are into our 6th generation transporter.
I've never heard of a transporter before.
So basically it's a van. It's our van series.
Okay.
It's a mid-sized van.
But is it a Combi van?
Well, yeah, it is. is. I mean, effectively, that's what became of the Combi van when it moved through its generations. But the one that I'm really sort of excited about is when I say Combi van, people don't sort of think of, it's a van. They think of the boxy sort of, So
the guy.
The guy, the dude.
The guy.
Yep. So the dude abides because the Combi van is coming back. It's called an ID Buzz. So the ID family is actually a new generation of cars that are coming in starting from 2020. It's so far away. Oh, but it's not. When you think about it, we're sort of mid-2018. It's really, and I mean,
that just baked my noodle.
Well, yeah, and we've just been talking about all this sort of stuff about prototyping. It takes a long time to get these cars into development and have them. But I saw the ID Buzz firsthand at the Frankfurt Motor Show last year.
Wow.
And
is it Boss?
It's awesome.
Is it?
It is so cool.
Take me there.
So
take me back.
We are talking about a real live future version of the Combi van. They have really gone back to the original sort of design, with sitting over the front wheels. So you've really got that sort of boxy design. The benefit is because this car is going to be all electric. You
didn't tell me that.
Yeah, well,
it's all electric.
Yep, all electric. So the entire ID family is going to be all electric cars.
So no petrol needed.
Nope. So
no diesel, no nothing.
Even more hippie. So so zero emissions. One of the things that I think is really, really fantastic is on the actual dashboard of this ID Buzz is a levitating gnome. So if you can picture a garden gnome sitting in a Zen sort of meditative position, it sits on the dash and it's using I think it uses magnets, but it's actually sort of hovering just above the dash and it spins 360 degrees, just like how people have sort of like the hula girls on dashes and things like that.
Yeah.
Well, the ID Buzz has a levitating gnome, and
wow, they've really gone next level, not just on how the car functions, but also on design. All right, okay, we're going to play ourselves a little game here, mate. So strap in. I'm going to out-geek you.
Ooh.
All right, now we've been talking about
Game
prototypes. On. That's kind of been the whole deal.
Yep.
And you seem to know a lot about them, so I thought I'm going to give you some that only made it to prototype but didn't maybe necessarily make it much further than that because for whatever reason they were potentially rubbish.
Wow, okay.
Hashtag maybe weren't rubbish. Okay, first one. Have you ever heard of the Ford, I'm going to say sinus, but I feel like it could be sinuous?
Sinuous, okay. No, I haven't, but certainly, yeah.
Wow, it sounds like some kind of weird nasal thing happening.
Yeah.
But it's not, surprisingly. Here's a little photo for you. Take a little look at that guy, that little box silver thing.
Oh, wow.
That's the Ford Sinus, and they actually designed it based on the idea of an armadillo. So it's completely hard on the outside. It's supposed to be like really safe, almost like a jail. But if you flip over the page there, you'll see that box-looking car, can you see the white interior?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it actually looks a bit like a padded cell.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have a rear vision window to look out of. Instead, it's got like an LCD screen thing.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I mean, first and foremost, you win. I haven't seen this car. But I would dare say, looking at the photos, that Ford probably has ensured that not too many people have seen this car. Well, I'm a little bit embarrassed that I didn't actually know this car. But
all right, well, how about I throw you another one?
All right, lay it on me.
Okay. Have you ever heard of the Volkswagen Concept T?
Ooh, Concept T. No, but yes. I am guessing because of the T, it's actually to do with our Transporter series.
No, it's not. It is. Okay, the Concept T, it features a removable roof thing and it has like a T-bar there so that it's like a convertible.
Oh, like a Targa top. That's cool.
Yeah. And you know what's funny is like I've always not really been a fan of convertibles because I always thought if you roll it, there goes your head.
Well, yeah, that's actually probably one of the things that you have to have is sort of a design there that protects your head, thus the T. But no, I have to say I've never sort of seen this car before, but I can actually sort of see traces of this design in certainly some of the cars that are coming forward. I mean, the ID Cross, which is a all-electric SUV that is part of this ID family that will be coming from sort of 2020 2020 onwards, does sort of have that kind of swoopy sort of elongated design sort of thing happening. But while I've never seen this one, I can actually sort of see a little bit of evolution happening there. But that's actually really cool. I'm actually a bit disappointed we never saw that one.
Okay, so if you know a lot about Volkswagen ones, but what about Honda? Do you know much about Honda?
No.
Okay, well, I may really out-geek you here. I'm going to give you one more, and hopefully you don't have like an answer on another car that you know a lot about. Here we go. The Honda Unibox.
Wow. That's, no, definitely not.
Okay, this is really special. Look at that bad boy.
Wow. That's guys. If you're listening right now, make sure that you Google this Honda Unibox. This is it looks like a tissue box on wheels, doesn't it?
It does, but a glass version, so you can see everything. Like you would not want to pick your nose in that.
No. You couldn't go to McDonald's either because kids would throw pickles at the side of your car as well. I mean, it'd be terrible.
Okay, I'm going to give you one more because I feel like I might be onto something here with Honda. All right. Have you heard of the Honda Voyager?
No, but I feel like I should know that one.
Okay, this one is great because it just looks like a giant vacuum cleaner.
Wow.
Tell me that doesn't look like a giant vacuum cleaner. Like that's a Dyson.
Wow, yeah.
Isn't that a Dyson?
It is, actually. That's very Total Recall, actually. That whole sort of flat. Wow, yeah, that's really weird. And has that got shelving on the that actually looks like it's got a wine rack on the door.
That's my kind of car.
Yeah, well, that's.
So look, mate, I hate to tell you this, but that's 4 from 4.
Yeah, that's shocking.
Yeah.
But did I surprise you with the answers, or at least come back at you with some sort of explanation of something? Not really. I mean,
I don't think the name of the game was Kurt's explanations of cars that he's never heard of before.
Can Kurt talk his way around a question without answering it?
Can Kurt sound like he knows things without knowing things? I don't think that was the name of the game either, Kurt.
No, well, I
believe
work in
the name
PR.
of the game was. Do you know these cars that were prototypes or something like that? See, even I don't know the title, but I don't care because I win 4 points and you win 0.
All right, deal.
Feels good to win. I'm not competitive.
I think let's wrap it up.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like my brain is definitely about to explode now, Kurt. That's a lot of information to take in one short space of time.
Well, has it been fun?
It has.
You learned something? I feel like I've learned something.
Yeah, I want to know more. I want to get more stuck into the thing that you talked about with cars that are going to drive themselves. It's terrifying and yet amazing. Well,
funny you should mention that because next podcast, Rise of the Robots, we're going to be talking about all things automation.
Ooh, I don't know if I'm ready.
Look, I think that's going to be one of the big questions that we're going to be asking in general. Are we ready as a species? This is a big topic in automotive at the moment.
It's exciting, man. I'm strapping in. I'm ready.
Okay. Well, look, guys, thanks very much for joining us for our first podcast. We've been talking today about the rise of prototyping and the process. We've also had a chat with Klaus Bischoff, head of Volkswagen Design, and Dr. Mark Richardson, who is an industrial designer. And if you want to listen to those interviews in full, make sure you head to the hub. But for now, I was occasionally Kurt McGuinness.
And I think I might have sometimes been Heather Maltman.
Thanks for joining us, guys. And don't forget to check it out on the hub. And for future episodes, that's where you'll find us. Cheers.
We should really work out who we are by the next one.
Yeah.